And Justin, the other thing that I've talked about before, got a little bit of headway, is when I went out to the Hall of Fame induction a few years back. Why isn't there an NBA Jam cabinet here? Just as a footnote of, in the 90s, this thing happened that blew up, that everybody knows the pixelated player select screen, right? Because the shirts from Homage, you've probably seen all the NBA Jam likeness shirts. They even do it for football players, because that image of the player select screen is so iconic. They do it for actors now, whatever, they put their faces on. But imagine a wall, almost like a Warhol wall of all the NBA Jam player select faces. Handful of them are Hall of Famers. The other, like, weird little bit like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? But have an NBA Jam arcade cabinet there. Have a few things. Have some, stuff, archival stuff, and say, this is a game that changed, the way kids and people and video gamers interacted with the NBA. Welcome to NBA Jam On Fire 2025 edition. Boom Shakalaka. Tonight's matchup, Justin takes on me, Mr. Boom Shakalaka. Here's the tip. Don't suck. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for joining the show.
Oh, of course.
Just a confession before we get started. We relaunched the podcast, myself and my other co-host in 2020. You were on our first list in terms of having you as a guest cover basketball culture. So it was a pleasure to have you on. Before we jump into your legendary career, we have a bit of a tradition on our show. We cover basketball culture, what makes the game of basketball so great. So take this question any way you want it.
Okay.
What is your first or favorite basketball memory?
First favorite basketball memory is touching a basketball in third grade, I think. And looking up at that basket, it looked like the Empire State Building, and just heaving with all my might, trying to, get it to hit the net. But there was something about basketball the second I saw it, that someone had an 8-foot rim on the block and started to play on that. It's just been a love affair my whole life. But the second I laid eyes on a basketball, could not get enough. And I was able, from that moment of not being able to hit the net by heaving the ball, to dunk by the time I was in high school at 6 feet. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's get into your career. And of course, us being a basketball show, we have to start with NBA Jam first.
Sure.
So we're almost approaching 2026. And
Crazy.
I know it just time just flies by.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine that just the legacy of NBA Jam would live on to this day in terms of just new players, old players, still people talking about it, just in terms of your contribution to the game as well? What's kind of your perspective that's reflecting over this time, and still NBA Jam still being pretty relevant in basketball culture these days?
Well, Justin, I never imagined myself living on to this age, 30-something years later. Wild ride, when you're young, and I had kind of a rock star life. I was playing drums in high school, and like every kid at that moment, it's like I'm a rock and roll drummer, and probably partied a little bit too much. But then I got my act together, got into acting, and went to Purchase College. Was classically trained as an actor. My roommate was Stanley Tucci. We had Vin Raines. We had all these great actors there. So that was going to be it. I'm going to be the stage actor. And I did a lot of Shakespeare, Chekhov, all the classics. So getting back to your question, did I imagine this being relevant, popular in the pop culture zeitgeist 30-something years later? There's no way, because I imagined a different life for myself completely. This is kind of the accidental story, which we'll get into, like something no one could ever imagine or dream of at a younger age, like in the 80s, coming out of college, going, I'm going to be a voiceover guy for video games, the farthest thing from my imagination. So the fact that it is still relevant, that Boom Shakalaka has hit that pop culture, place, like the zeitgeist, in the vernacular, is incredible to me. And that when I go to shows now, I do retro game shows all over the country, I'm getting little small fries that have been, their brother or their father, someone has introduced them to Jam, and they're coming up at 6 years old, literally like, oh my God, Mr. Boom, they don't say Miss, but you're the Boom Shakalaka guy. It's one of those touchstone things that when something's good, like any great entertainment or art, movie, whatever, it lasts forever. It doesn't matter the generation. The good old Frankenstein movie still is relevant. The Beatles are relevant. The early arcade games, there's only one moment in the history of video games that will ever happen. That was that one, because we've gone so far in 30 years. But that original arcade moment of NBA licensed players coming together in the first video captured likeness, only one time. And we're talking about Midway NBA, which was striking lightning gold with, Mortal Kombat and then, of course, NFL Blitz after this and Narc and Total Carnage and all those other great games, to be a part of that, but not having any perspective or context to know that this was an important moment for all of us, like everybody, all the designers out there, Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam Blitz, everybody's just doing their job. Like there are other video game companies out there. They hired the best, designers, and they said, go make us some hits. It's like Motown, like they get, Barry Gordy just said, bring in all these guys, let's write the best song and have the most hits. And fortunately, Midway delivered, and I happened to be in the driver's seat as far as a voiceover and the first voice to have that kind of impact on the video game generation. There was never a video game beforehand that had that much constant voiceover in it. And now it's ridiculous to think back how little voice there is in it, because the memory and, the technology, it's really like basically a handful of one-liners, the original one.
So what was your strategy in coming up with all these catchphrases? Because I would say not only in video games, but just in sports culture, I say it's Stuart Scott comes the closest, I would say, in terms of having kind of, original catchphrases, maybe. That's the top of my head. Other than that, I would say yourself is pretty far ahead even now in 2025.
I appreciate it, Justin, but I think that I have to be honest, I would love to take a lot more credit for the original dialogue and the superlatives and the one-liners from the first one. But the first NBA Jam was basically supposed to be a sim game. It wasn't supposed to be a crazy, funny, arcade, over-the-top thing. It was like, we have the NBA players, and we're going to make a basketball game. It's going to look very realistic. There were fights within the design team, specifically Sal DeVita, who is also the co-creator of NFL Blitz, who said, no, we don't want them jumping 20 feet high. No, we don't want them on fire. That's a cartoon. This has to be realistic. But the entertainment factor could not be ignored by everybody else as, no, we have to go this direction. So that's just a side story, that it was never intended to be a kind of a crazy over-the-top things. Those things happened organically. But myself, I just came into the studio, and John Hay, who wrote the terrific soundtrack, that music is maybe more, when you hear that, it's more NBA than the NBA theme song, which actually they just brought back the old NBA song with Tesh. But anyway, his job was to put sound and put music and put dialogue and hire the voice talent for pinball games and video games. So I'd worked on many pinball games with him before. So what he did is he would sit down for the NBC Game of the Week, Marv Albert, and just pen to paper, write down everything that he heard. It's like, so we could have a realistic soundtrack. I myself was watching every week because it was the Bulls, and I was just such a big basketball fan. I was watching the Lakers, Celtics, all those great teams, early 90s. So I was very familiar with Marv. I'm a huge fan. So if you look back, like, he's on fire, he's heating up, those are Marv. He would call, Vinnie Johnson would come in for the Detroit Pistons as the human microwave, and he would heat up. That was his job, to roll off one of the first great guns off the bench, like, Vinnie Johnson is heating up the human microwave. He's on fire. He's on fire. However he did it, that's what got me up into that register, because Marv was like way up there, So I was basically just trying to give my version of a simulated NBC Game of the Week. So Boom Shakalaka is really the only truly original line that came out of that was not in the sports vernacular. An accident. John Carlton, another sound guy and programmer for NBA Jam, was 2 doors down from our sound studio, and he was listening to I Wanna Take You Higher, Sly and the Family Stone, Boom Shakalaka, Boom Shakalaka. And he thought they were saying Boom Shakalaka. It was just Boo Shakalaka, Boo. And he said, hey, tell Tim to say Boom Shakalaka. He just thought it would be a cool thing. He's a creative guy, and I'm like, what the hell is Boom Shakalaka? I go, hey, Tim wants to know what the hell Boom Shakalaka is. He goes, just tell him to say it. Just say it. Boom shakalaka. Let's do another one for safety. Boom shakalaka. That was it. Because I thought I knew all the expressions in basketball. I'd never heard of boom shakalaka. So when he said, say it, I'm like, what the hell? I'm getting paid $50 an hour, which is a lot of money, right? So, that's as far as the one-liners. I think I came into my own on NFL Blitz and certainly EA Sports version of NBA Jam in 2010 and 11 and MLB Slugfest, et cetera. That's when all the producers said, Tim, we want you to write. Now, I had a background at Second City, improv acting, writing, performance, comedy. That's when I dug my teeth in. So if you go to the 2010 and 11 version of EA Sports, that's when you get like, LeBron in the lane, jams it in, and all you can do is hand him his diploma because he just got his MBA degree from Duncan on You. That kind of thing. And LeBron says, I I can't go to work without my coffee and donuts. You bring the coffee, and I'll bring the Dunkin'. And the Dunkin' drive-thru lane is wide open tonight. From the corner for 3, rejected. Or like my wife says, not tonight. Those were, like, to me, comedic kind of memorable, like, one-liners, like from a sitcom. Certainly with MLB Slugfest, so much comedy. There's so much great writing. And also when we get to talk about Mutant Football League, writing for 3 characters, all the characters, my creation, I voiced them. So the one-liners, it's funny that I get the credit for those, the early ones. Of all the games I've done, NBA Jam, the original arcade version, was the least creative work I did. All I did is put all my energy into it, vocally, because I love basketball. But I can't take credit for it being like the soundtrack of our lives, other than it was my voice. It was really Marv Albert's voice.
He's such an icon too.
Love him.
And I feel, there's great play-by-play voices now, but I think I don't know. I just miss the catchphrases. I just think it's very much a lot. I don't know. It's very professional. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also about fun as well. And I think that's missing in today's play-by-play.
Yeah, Kevin Harlan and Freeman, bang, they have some of those, and they bring the energy. And if you ever get to watch the Bulls, Stacey King is one of the most original, funny, creative guys. I absolutely love him. And it's just, it's almost like he's freestyling all the time, but he comes up with his catchphrases. Oh, give me the hot sauce. Give me the hot sauce. It's like, didn't you get your invitation to the block party? He has so many great lines. And that's the kind of fun and creativity that I added, as I said, to the EA Sports on Fire Edition 2010-11. And if any of you guys out there listening have not played or seen that, check it out on YouTube clips or whatever and find it somewhere. Still, at the retro game shows you can find it. But that is really fun. That's a great game. And those were that was the game where they simply took photographs of all the players, like Steph Curry, whatever. So put kind of big heads on the players with their actual likeness. So it's pretty cool.
So you bring up the 2010 remake. Can you kind of discuss what the development process was like, especially building on the legacy of the original NBA Jam? Was there pressure? What was kind of can you compare the 2 experiences when putting the original NBA Jam together to voicing the newer version? Can I compare and contrast those 2 experiences?
Well, now I finally have understanding perspective of what, how important the game is. When I walked away from it, I just thought, it's a game that ends up at an arcade that you walk by and there's hundreds of games in there. It's just one of many. And I didn't realize that it took $1 billion in quarters the first year, that it's the most successful, popular arcade sports game, probably game ever. Maybe in the end, Pac-Man or something earned more, but the ridiculousness of that. So there was, to me, no pressure. It was just the desire, like if you had hit a hit record 17 years ago, back in 2010, you want to be on top again. You don't want to have that sophomore slump 17 years later. So I wanted it to be great, but I had no control because it's not going to go to the arcades. There are so many other titles out there. EA was known for their Elite title. So this was just going to be an add-on. It was going to be a freebie. When you get Elite for $60, it was going to be a freebie download. So that being said, the producer, wonderful guy, Trey Smith, and he just said, I want you to write. So giving me, as I said, the whole soundtrack and the tone of the game, which totally changed from the original, put them side to side. This is more like, stand-up comedy meets ESPN, Sports Center, that kind of thing. Having the fun to be both a commentator, kind of a trash talker, and a stand-up comedian at the same time, and a realistic play-by-play guy was the fun that kind of became my persona from NFL Blitz and MLB Slugfest, to kind of fill 3 different roles, entertainer and play-by-play. So I had so much fun writing it. I had no doubt in my mind that it was great work. It looked great. And we were so fortunate that Mark Turmel, the game's original creator, was now at EA Tiburon, head of the Madden team in the sports department. So he was overseeing it. So he was making sure that it looked and felt like, the speed. One of the great things about NBA Jam is it has that fast speed. That's the adrenaline thing, right? He said, we were peddling crack cocaine on the corner. Like, you just couldn't wait to get your next fix. You had to make a game that ate the quarters. You can't get that quarter out of your pocket. You're not doing anything. Sim games don't have to do that. But once you buy the game, you don't have to put quarters in, and there's no other, there's no other competition on the market for certain games. Like, there's no other arcade Jam style basketball back then, in 2010 and 2011. So we had that going for us. But the only thing was, I felt that a huge $5 billion company at the time, now they're assessed at $200 million or something. They were just bought for that ridiculous amount, EA. They did not put that marketing money behind it. You would expect an indie team like right now, Mutant Football League, $1 million Kickstarter to make the game, and that's all we have forever and ever and ever. And they had that kind of budget. They never properly marketed it. So I felt like that it didn't get the love that it deserved, but people who know it and play it say it's one of the greatest arcade-style games and a great successor to NBA Jam. People just don't know about it.
I think those games are fairly messy, and I'm glad Mutant Football 2 is coming out. Yeah. And there's some other games that are coming out as well in the spirit of NBA Jam. How important do you think those games are? Because playing simulation sports games, those are cool, gain the realistic experience. But I would say the most fun I had playing sports video games is games like NBA Jams, games like NFL Blitz. Arguably, I played way more than NBA Jam just over friends' houses. I mean, how important are those games just to the sports ecosystem? Because I don't know, I just feel like everything's so serious with 2K. It's just like everybody's just taking everything so personal. It's just the fun of these games that you voice. I just think it's missing from video game culture these days.
Welcome to NFL Blitz 99. Oh, he just took his head off. Oh, it's just his helmet. Darn it. Oh, and that's unsportsmanlike play down there in the field. And that's why they love him. That's our unsportsmanlike play of the day. I mean, we just had so much fun. The irreverence. Football's a violent sport. And it's crazy, and things get out of control. And there was a play a few years ago, Philadelphia Eagles, someone took their helmet off, tried to whack a guy in the head, and it was like a total NFL Blitz moment. The craziness, the fun of it, those games are very important. It's a genre, as I was saying before. Entertainment that is good lasts forever, right? Yes. No, it's a timeless thing. Horror movies, Creature of the Black Lagoon, King Kong, Frankenstein. Why do they remake them? Why the comic book superhero movies get remade? Hey, they're from back in the 40s and the 50s, but they're still popular, right? Because there's a story, there's entertainment, there's fun, and if you put the right energy behind it, there's always going to be an audience. What people have to learn is that this whole movement towards sim games doesn't mean it's the future in the only way. It's the same in movies. The old genres are important too. Old rock and roll is important. Soul is important to hip hop. Rock to punk. Every moment of creation in art, music, movies, whatever, video games, they're all important. And it is a genre, and a lot of developers grew up with those games. That's why I'm getting a lot of offers and doing work now. People are realizing, hey, let's go back and make some fun, quick play, adrenaline, fast-paced, entertaining video games so that when you're playing a Madden, you don't have to commit to 2 hours to set it up and drafting a team, all that kind of stuff you can jump into. You can be playing Madden and go, hey, you guys want to take a break and play a video game? Yeah, let's play Mutant Football League. Like if I'm watching football on a Sunday or it's a Super Bowl party, let's put on the Bears-Packers while we're watching Bears-Packers at halftime. Play for 10 minutes, Mutant Football League. The Green Bay Attackers. It's perfect. It is fast, furious, fun. Ironically, well, not ironically, it maybe perfectly serendipitously fits in with the new culture of short attention spans, right? TikTok, short moments, like 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Who has the time to commit to an entire, like the NBA 2K, like to foul shots? I don't have time for foul shots. I don't want to see these slow walking zombies walking down court and then hearing guys talk about, in the offseason, he worked on a 3-point shot. He's really got to get his hand, the spin, the back rotation, or baseball things talking about that spin rate and coming off the bat is about 100 miles an hour. We don't want to hear that. We want to have fun and be entertained. So if you go to Slugfest, it is the fastest, most entertaining way to play baseball. Here's another example why they should come back, especially with an MLB Slugfest. They've been trying to speed up the actual MLB games because the attention span, right? And boring, slow. So the perfect grooming tool for the MLB is MLB Slugfest because it makes kids laugh. You can go to crazy locations, different stadiums. You can hit guys and have fun. There's crazy humor. That's an entertainment piece you can pick up quickly and fall in love and learn your teams. That's what NBA Jam did for the NBA. There are people around the world that have reached out to me that were introduced to the NBA through NBA Jam. People didn't know or care about NBA players, names, teams. Back in then pre-internet, they learned their players. They learned their teams here in the USA too. They learned about players on those Sacramento and the all the other teams that weren't like big. If you weren't the Lakers, the Knicks, the Bulls, whatever in the 90s, if you weren't in those cities, you didn't know them. And TV only played those certain games. So NBA Jam was one of the greatest recruiting tools for the NBA. I talked to David Stern before he passed away at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And he said he had no idea the game made $1 billion and had that impact. He said, had he known, because that is before the older generation connected with the younger generation. Went, hey, this video game thing, this could be something that really, this is a way to promote our sport. They thought, oh, these are games. We're serious. Once again, to this, if we're going to do something, it's going to be a serious sim game. So this world of Sims versus arcade, there's plenty of room for both, right? So I think that like what Michael is doing with Mutant Football League is we're kind of joking, teasingly call it the anti-Madden, because this is the moment where you can just release and have that kind of fun where you don't have to spend all day getting into it. And the humor, like, you know how people love esports? They love watching people watch. They love watching people play. I think there's even like channels now where you can watch people watch.
Yeah.
And Mutant Football League, it's like when you turn on the TV, if there's a great Adult Swim, one of these crazy kind of like the something or other chicken or whatever, or Futurama. They're fun to just look at, right? It's eye candy. It's colorful. It's fun. It's crazy. If you just watch the screen of Mutant Football League, it's fun. Then you hear the crazy dialogue, which I've been fortunate enough to add this kind of Adult Swim tone, this world, create the crazy commercials, fake ads for post-apocalyptic world. You can be entertained just listening and watching. You don't even have to play it. So that's one of the great benefits, because when people gather around, you want to be entertained. As I said, that sim version of like, how much fun is it to watch an NBA 2K game or a Madden game if you're not playing it? So I think that Mutant Football League is going to bring people in. Another important thing is people around the world that are now getting into the NFL a little bit because of our games overseas, whatever. I did an interview with a guy from the UK, and he said, we don't care about the players. We don't have enough time to get to know all your teams, all your players. So we don't need like that NFL Players Association license. We don't need a Madden. We don't need to know all the teams. We don't need to spend an hour or two investing in that kind of game. We like the bang up fun of football, because the rugby football kind of thing. Yeah. And he goes, Mutant Football League is the perfect gateway drug into the sports video game world, even if you're not a sports fan necessarily, which is what I heard so much from people who enjoyed NFL Blitz, NBA Jam, from women, from small kids. When I was a kid, I wasn't a big sports guy. I was into Mario and this and that, but it was so much fun. Everybody was playing it, made so much noise. I got into it. So it became addictive without even like having some attribute like, oh, I'm into NBA, I'm into NFL. No. But now Mutant Football League, you can get into it just because it's fun, but you like that bashing, that violence, that cartoon violence and humor. So I think that Madden and the other games, they can't fulfill that, and there's really no other football games on the market. So we hope that we can, through folks like you, organic grassroots level, spread the word, because that's the only thing that's missing from the ingredient of this being, I think, one of the most popular games out there, is getting people to know it exists and to look at it, play it, watch the clips, watch the trailer. So once again, appreciate you having me on to talk about that and how it connects to the legacy of the greatest arcade sports titles of all time, which I just feel very fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time for.
Yeah, of course. I think it's very important. And to that point of Mutant Football League 2, can you talk about the creative process and how you approach this game compared to the others, and carving out your own path and coming up with this original material in this new venture?
Well, when I met Michael, he told me a little bit about what it was. He showed me some images. And of course, this is based on the 93 Sega game that had a Saturday morning cartoon show. But of course, those great old days of what, the pixelated, like Tecmo Bowl or whatever, like, it was its own genre, its own style, because it was not realistic or even close. And he said, but we're going to make a newer, version with all these great graphics and everything else, but it's a crazy world. And I was thinking, and we can do the fake commercials and things like, brought to you by Bladderade. Is it in you? Who asks, is it in you? Or running down your leg? Bladderade, the pro sports drink of the senior golf PGA Tour, whatever. So I was like off and running with like the comedic potential of how products and things in the concession stands. That was my first thing, is like, where's all the comedy in around the stadium, in the booth? And now who's the character? Well, it's going to be based on me, but it's going to have, we decided on the skeleton alter ego called Grim Blitzrow. And then I created this idea of like, we wanted more people in the booth. So Bricks Jr. is a former player that did not take enough steroids, because the new era, like, you have to be all mutant, steroids. And he has a mutant growth on his shoulder, who is the other guy, Junior. Hey, what's your problem? And then Bricks is this guy. He's crazy because he's got rocks in his head. So it's this Adult Swim kind of Three Stooges kind of booth that I got to orchestrate and put together and do the voices for and create this world of mayhem that matched the mayhem on the field. Because there is a lot of cartoon, but big violence, bloody, sprayed things, saws, and you can pull out shotguns and shoot the defender. You can kill a ref, bribe a ref. When you're in Mile High Stadium, you can put the other team on hallucinogenic drugs for a period of time. You get 5 dirty tricks a game. Just to give you an idea of how crazy it is, I was like, man, this is a world that like no one has ever touched before. Sports meets Adult Swim cartoon, meets this fantasy, comedy world. So being able to just put all of my all the comedy, training and things that I love and voice work into creating 3 characters in this world and stadium. Michael just took the leash off. He said, just go, And when we go in the studio, I try to stick to the script, but the fun is in the moment, you riff, you just let it go. And so there's going to be so much crazy stuff in there that you'll hear, hopefully it'll make you have to pause the game, because that's how much fun it was in the studio recording it. It was as much a party the whole way. Hard work for sure, especially recording 3 voices at a time for the exchanges, because you can't go back. We didn't have the ability to do all this character's lines and I do all this and then match the best take of this with the best take of that and then get the timing. So you're doing like the whole segment of like, welcome to this stadium, welcome to this city. It all has to be perfect. You have to hit your mark. So a lot of technical work to be able to have the voice to do it and to have the timing. But man, it was just a roller coaster ride, and it combines everything that I've ever loved: acting, performance, voiceover, comedy, and sports. I could not be in a better place. And the fact that Michael is one of the greatest and the last of the people who really helped, the arcade crazy over the top world, to the forefront with the original. He's really a creative genius, and there are not a lot of guys left like him. That he said, someone said, well, how do you compete with Madden? They've got, I think $30 to $100 million budget. And obviously, it's like billion to this date, probably like what that franchise has done. He said, well, money doesn't buy creativity.
True.
They are doing the best job in the world. No one does it better of creating a simulated NFL game, true. But the crazy, wacky world of entertainment of Mutant Football League that still allows to play like a Madden without, as I said, all the headaches and, the time commitment. That's the beauty. Like that's a comic writer. That's a producer. That's a Tim Burton. He creates a world and he plugs football in as the device for this world, for this entertainment. And it plays like a real football game. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. No one else is doing that. And the big companies, they all want the big sports licenses. Well, I get it. That's where the most money is or whatever. But they're not taking the risks to do games like this. It's up to independent people, independent companies, and Digital Dreams and Michael Menheim. That's why we have to help and support them, because that's where it's like great music. Like there's so much great music out there, but there aren't the big record companies that are going to take the chance on and promote them. The only way they make money is on a tour right now. So there's no one going, hey, let's help Digital Dreams out, because they're afraid that it might cannibalize their product also, and they're known for big serious games and blah, 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 blah. They don't take it seriously enough. What they don't realize is this is the street crack. I said they could end up making $1 million if they gave a free taste to people, so.
It's true. I think it's vitally important, and I'm glad that this game is coming out. I want to ask you, what's the craziest fan interaction you've had, just in terms of somebody coming up to you talking about NBA Jam? Has anything surprised you?
Well, here's one thing, and people don't realize it's, may sound or seem like a glamorous job, but for most of my life, I started out making $50 an hour. Doing voices for over 15 classic pinball games, including Attack from Mars, Twilight Zone, Popeye, tons of titles. That's how I got in the position. A few years later, they said, hey, we're making this NBA game. We like you, and we think you'd be great. So it all happened by accident, but I'm still making $50 an hour. I made 800 and change on NBA Jam, which made $1 billion. So if you think of like Tom Cruise doing $1 billion Mission Impossible franchise, but it was only Tom Cruise, one actor, and they paid him $800.
Yeah.
He'd have to work in a restaurant. He'd have to sell cars. Well, I worked in a restaurant for 40 years. This ended up being incredible fun, but it was not a money-making career. That's just the way it is. It's not like Hollywood where they go, well, game made $1 billion, so we need to pay the actors accordingly. So it's just been really hard to make this thing like the total dream, which is like it's my living and everything else. So anyway, back to the question, I'm working in a steakhouse in Chicago, and Steve Smith is in there for March Madness, and one of the other waiters goes over to him and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "that guy over there," he goes, "he's the voice of NBA Jam." He just figured Steve Smith would know because he's in NBA Jam, right? and then so Steve Smith gets up from his table and he walks over toward me. I'm like walking through the dining room with probably a couple of wine glasses, dirty wine glasses in my hand, real glamorous. He goes, "Hey man," and I'm like, "Oh, Steve Smith," and he goes, "Are you really the voice of NBA Jam?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Oh man, wait till I tell my kids I met you. We were just playing last night." I'm like, "What? You were playing NBA Jam last night?" And he said, "Yeah, on the big arcade." I go, "How'd you get a big arcade?" He goes, "That's what they gave us for being in the game." So the players were not compensated. They were given a game, but that floored me. I got a Hall of Famer stopping me in a restaurant, getting up from his table to say, "I can't wait to tell my kids I met you." I'm like, "I can't wait to tell myself I met you." That was pretty crazy.
No, I bet, yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, in terms of just reflecting on the league, your fandom, what's kind of catching your eye in terms of the modern NBA or sports culture in general? I guess start off with just the NBA itself, new television deal, new players internationally. What's kind of your feelings on just the game overall? Are you feeling it or are you not? I mean, there's always a talk of too many 3-point shots. What's kind of your feelings going on with just the modern NBA?
Yeah, great question. I think that, like a lot of OG guys, like the argument is because I grew up on so much old basketball. I actually watched the CBA, which Phil Jackson was the coach of in Albany before he came to the Bulls. Watched it in an armory. And, high school basketball, college basketball, that, when it's really like team basketball and that excitement and you're in close, and there's not all these noises, bells and whistles and jumbotrons and constant ads and shooting T-shirts in the stands. If you've been to an NBA game, it's an assault on your ear. It's like, I love the game. So that what to me is missing is like, I've become much more a fan of college basketball and the Final Four, the Sweet 16, all that stuff, because the only unfortunate thing is, though, you're not getting the players sticking around for years. And when you do have players there for years, you love that because you have rivalry and you love to see a team and the team chemistry. So what's missing for me in the NBA is that cohesiveness. Too much jumping around for me to really get behind a team. Like, I was such a hardcore Bulls fan, but in the new era of teams being made, the whole, LeBron started to switch, whatever. Now, here's an interesting thing. This would have been the perfect moment for EA to really capitalize, especially the 25th anniversary, on NBA Jam re-releasing it, because that was when the big two, the big three, the superstar things was, right. The Wade and, LeBron, whatever, and Westbrook and Harden, and NBA Jam had the monopoly on that, which the sim games don't, to really talk about who are your favorite three, who's the big two, who are the NBA Jam greatest duos for the modern era. They could have done that. So to me, that is what's missing, is that, people jump in ship. And now I follow, good basketball, good plays, good players, highlights, but it's hard for me to really get behind teams. I really hate the loose, the no travel call, all that kind of stuff. That's we all know that's getting out of hand, and the LaFlop stuff. I hate that. MJ would not let you knock him down. If you knocked him down, he's going to get up and punch you because, and he was like 195 pounds when he started out. He's going in amongst. So I think that there's, we've lost a certain toughness, that defensive battles. There were a couple great playoff games last year, the Knicks playoff games, where there were some really great defensive battles. That's what I miss. I hate when you see a team win 140 to 125. It's just like run back and forth, shoot, run back and forth, shoot. It's like when I go to the Y now, everybody runs up to the line and chucks it. Everybody runs up and chucks it. They're learning from the pros. The pros are growing up on the playground at the Y, whatever. Everybody's just running up and heaving the three. So don't like that. I love the fact that the world, that there is having all these foreign players, that there's this interest. It's such a great sport. And I wish that NBA Jam could be more a part of it. And it almost was. I'll let you know, a year or so ago, the NBA reached out to me and they were going to use NBA Jam with an AI tool to convert actual live gameplay into NBA Jam pixelated gameplay.
Oh,
They
wow.
rolled this technology out a couple of years ago, commissioner with Wembanyama, and they showed a Pacers game as a Spider-Verse cartoon animation. And you can look it up, Spider-Verse, NBA AI. They got in trouble because they didn't ask Marvel or anyone if they could use the Spider-Verse artwork, whatever. But they were in talks with me, 3 different meetings. Hey, your voice is going to be on it, so people can be watching it. Your voice is going to be there. A guy hits 3 in a row. He's on fire. I thought, wow. And this is a great tool, once again, to get younger fans and game fans a different way to engage with a game, to share highlights as NBA Jam. I'm still hoping that something happens. They just basically said it's stalled, legal reasons, whatever. So I'm hoping that comes back. So a long journey on this question is I love the NBA still, always will. I want to see it cleaned up a little bit, and I would love, because this is my profession, I would love to get more involved. I would love a new NBA Jam, which there's been rumors for the last 5 years from the creator, Mark Turmel, who's told me people have reached out to him. They have investors. One of it was the crypto NFT market. There was tons of money coming in. It's going to happen. Then the market fell apart, so we didn't get it. But to be a part of a new NBA Jam and to do that and entertain people, I would like to do more work in stadiums. I've done a lot of things with different teams, including doing their lineup intros, doing Jumbotron videos, highlights for them. But other than that, I couldn't be happier than to have NBA Superstars, a new NBA game, which is out in Dave & Buster's and other arcades, 75-inch monitor, a huge game. It's the spiritual successor to NBA Jam. I almost forgot to tell you, it's been out for a year. But this is made by Rothrills Play Mechanics in Chicago, 2 of the great designers from Midway, who created things from Cruisin' to Narc, Total Carnage, worked on NBA Jam. They created this game, and it's a great game with the new roster. So check out NBA Superstars.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's greatly needed, especially nostalgia. Yeah. I think it's a time that should be capitalized on, and I'm rooting. I can speak for my other 2 co-hosts. We're rooting for a new NBA Jam to come quickly, and as I can speak for the rest of the NBA as well.
And Justin, the other thing that I've talked about before, got a little bit of headway, is when I went out to the Hall of Fame induction a few years back. Why isn't there an NBA Jam cabinet here? Just as a footnote of, in the 90s, this thing happened that blew up, that everybody knows the pixelated player select screen, right? Because the shirts from Homage, you've probably seen all the NBA Jam likeness shirts. They even do it for football players, because that image of the player select screen is so iconic. They do it for actors now, whatever, they put their faces on. But imagine a wall, almost like a Warhol wall of all the NBA Jam player select faces. Handful of them are Hall of Famers. The other, weird little bit who's that guy? Who's that guy? But have an NBA Jam arcade cabinet there, have a few things, have some, stuff, archival stuff, and say, this is a game that changed, the way kids and people and video gamers interacted with the NBA. And that whole story I was telling you about it having been a huge part of a lot of young people's growing up, their relationship with the NBA and players, and how much fun to have players come back and see themselves, Ewing and all these guys there. I think it should just be a display, a very simple one. But I would love to get in the Hall of Fame. And I would love to have, although I've worked with NBA teams, the NBA itself has never honored, acknowledged the game, Mark, the creator, or myself. I think it would be great at an all-star game to have one thing where, I do I introduce the judges for the dunk contest, or I introduce the players, and their images are player select NBA Jam pixelized up there. Tonight's matchup in the dunk contest, and have it brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. The Dunkin' drive-thru lane is wide open tonight. It's perfect. And all the guys, the judges, like Shaq, he's the biggest NBA Jam fan in the world. Yeah. He had 2 cabinets purchased, one to go on the road in the airplane to be brought into his hotel room, and the other for home because there were not home versions. So NBA Jam is a great legacy, but it's never been acknowledged, as I said, by the NBA. And the All-Star game would be a great time. And we also know that last year the dunk contest was a disaster. Yeah. And the 3-point contest, entertainment, they brought in Kevin Hart to do 45 minutes of making fun of players. Me, bring it in, make it concise, introduce a lineup like I do, a couple big things. If the guy misses a dunk, I go, rejected by the rim. Like my wife says, not tonight, have some fun with it. Even when they miss, can't buy a bucket, puts up a brick, terrible shot. I would love that moment just to say, there's every time I go to a stadium to do one of these live events, people are just crazy. And afterwards, I'm walking through the stand, hey, boom shaka, like, oh, he's about, because it just brings them back instantly to, fun time. And the NBA, we can all have fun in the NBA today, and I would like to be part of it.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments exactly. I think that's greatly needed. It's a shame that the NBA hasn't acknowledged the NBA Jam, but I think that will come. I think that's going to happen. I think this is natural synergy, and it's capitalizing on just the history of the game. Really, right. I don't think the NBA really acknowledges its video game history, which is such a big part of just its DNA. So hopefully that does.
The only time they seem to do it is when like TNT brought you by 2K, because they get revenue and they'll put it the entire program like
that's marketing.
2K, 2K. But to acknowledge it, and I reached out at one point, like to both to the Hall of Fame. I spoke to one of the curators there, and he said, "Well, how much you think this would cost? I mean, it'd be millions of dollars. Are you going to raise the money?" No, I was thinking that's what you do. It's like I'm not asking. It's not promoting. I'm not just doing it for me or for a product. This isn't even a product that's for sale anymore. I'm just talking about acknowledging it. And so that for the NBA to wait now over 30 years and never acknowledging it is just kind of strange. And it could be a huge boost for them. When I did a halftime dunk show for the Milwaukee Bucks, the Rim Rockers, they performed with the All-Star game. Amazing. So I did the whole thing. Tonight's matchup, and I would have the team pitted against the other. At one point, they dunked over me standing in front of an NBA Jam arcade. And before the show, I was out in the lobby, the concourse. They had the Rim Rockers, kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters out there playing around the ball, talking to kids. We had a Nerf hoop. We had a DJ. We had the cheerleaders. I had my desk, my banners, signing free stuff, taking pictures. Kids are dunking. I'm going, Junior from the Jams it in, kaboom. So parents taking videos of their kids jamming the basketball. There's a line like for half an hour, nonstop. Totally, it was a spur of the moment thing. I said at the last minute, I'll bring up a bunch of my 8x10s. We'll sign them. You put me out in the lobby. The second you put NBA Jam out there, they put a couple arcade things with me. People are just coming up, just blowing their mind. Like, you're the voice. You're the voice. Oh man, can you say this, my kid? Can you say this? Take a video selfie. That's how much fun. It's just a party. Oh, it's a party up in here now. NBA Jam is on fire. Put those quarters in the NBA Jam time machine. We're gonna party like it's 1999. Prince from the corner. Purple rain. Oh, it's raining purple freeze here. I mean, there's so much fun to be had. And to be a part of the party has been great in different stadiums. But yeah, my Christmas wish list is to get on the NBA playlist in the All-Star game this year.
Oh, I'm hoping that happens. And we're crossing our fingers. And I just want to thank you for just contributing to the legacy of just basketball culture overall. I think everybody recognizes, I think it's just a matter of time before the NBA does too. Appreciate the time, Tim.
Yeah.
Can you let our audience know where they can find you on social media? Again, where they can find Mutant Football League 2, any upcoming projects as well, anything else you're working on?
Well, they can find me. They can find me wherever there's good video games. I actually, I don't do a whole lot of social media because I'll post like when Mutant Football League is coming out or if I'm doing an appearance. But I'm on Twitter, to just at Tim Kitzrow, and Facebook and Instagram. But check out the Mutant Football League site, and I really want to thank you for having that in the conversation, because truly this is a game that I think is going to turn a lot of heads when people see it. So please look at it, look at the trailer, and look at my site. We have so much fun just posting these great kind of cartoon posts, and hey, it's a great Christmas gift, and tell your friends about it and surprise someone. But I've also just did NFL slots, so if you're in any casino in the world, you see a huge NFL. It's the weirdest thing. NFL, the first time a major sports team has been a slot game, with the whole new FanDuel and everything. I call it FanFool or DraftKings of pain and suffering. But with this new integration of sports and sports teams, NFL is the first team to do a slot. So NFL slots, I'm the voice of that. I've got a couple other projects working on. I'm actually going to be on Lil Flip, of Game Over, iconic rapper, hip hopper. Yep. I'm a guest narrator on his new record. So I'm kind of be like, you're listening to Radio BOOMSHAKALAKA with me, Mr. BOOMSHAKALAKA. And this is a release party for Flip's new record. We're dropping H-bombs from H-Town. It's the launch party, Flip, with the fear of going broke. So I kind of introduced different tracks. That's out tomorrow, the 12th. And how about that? This week, we got Mutant Football League out. yesterday, and then Flip's new record, and then there's a couple secrets that involve Flip and me, further collaboration that might even cross over from Mutant Football League to that. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on, and let's keep the party going, Justin. Thanks for having me on and spreading the good word about the arcade games and keeping the legacy alive for all of your viewers.
Of course. Thanks, Tim. Much appreciated. Congratulations on your career. Appreciate it.
This game is over. The nail in the coffin. Oh, with the eulogy dunk. No, seriously, Kitzrow just buried that guy 6 feet under the floorboards. Kaboom! All right, Justin. Have a great holiday. Merry Christmas.
You too. Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you.
And that should do it for us today. On behalf of Matt, Justin, and Alan, this is Tim Kitzrow saying we'll see you next time. Kaboom!